The international studio pulsed with bright lights and tension. U.S. President Donald Trump sat upright in a sharp navy suit, leaning toward the microphone with a fierce glare. His words shot through the air like bullets. Ibrahim Traoré must step down now, or we sanction Burkina Faso into the ground. Gasps exploded from the panel. Even the camera crew froze. Across the polished news desk, ECOWAS newly elected chairman, President Maada Bio of Sierra Leone, blinked slowly. He hadn't seen this coming. His hands gripped the table, his lips parted, but no words came. The studio's giant LED screens flashed live reactions from viewers around the world. Tickers scrolled rapidly. Breaking: Trump threatens Burkina Faso. The panel moderator, a French journalist, looked stunned. "Mr. Trump, that's a strong accusation. Why now?" Trump leaned forward again, voice booming. "Because the world needs law and order, and Traoré is disrupting everything." Suddenly, the back studio doors creaked open. Every camera swiveled. A tall figure entered, calmly and slowly. It was Ibrahim Traoré. Silence drowned the room. And then, he began to speak. Captain Ibrahim Traoré walked toward the stage like a soldier marching through fire. The studio lights beamed down on his olive-green uniform, chest medals glinting with quiet pride. His face was unreadable. Calm, but burning with something deeper. Trump's eyes widened. He wasn't expecting this. Traoré didn't sit. He stood beside Maada Bio, placed a firm hand on his shoulder, and said softly, "Don't be afraid, brother. Let me speak." Maada's eyes welled up, visibly shaken by the moment. The moderator stammered. "Captain Traoré, this is unexpected. Do you want to respond to the former president?" Traoré nodded once. "Yes. Not for myself. For the people of Burkina Faso." His voice was deep, steady, and slow. "We have no gold to buy the world's silence. We have no media to clean our name. But we have our dignity, and we will not trade that for fear." The studio trembled with emotion. A woman in the control booth wiped away tears. Trump clenched his jaw but said nothing. Maada Bio sat frozen. The world watched, eyes glued to screens. And then Traoré dropped something on the table, a worn leather notebook. The room leaned in. The notebook landed with a soft thud. Old cracked leather. Edges burnt, pages curled. Captain Traoré looked around the studio, then straight into the camera. "This is not a weapon, but it is why they fear me." Trump squinted. "What is that? A prop?" Traoré ignored him. "This book belonged to a farmer from Dori," he said. "He lost his family during a foreign-led raid near the Sahel. He wrote down everything, names, dates, places, who gave the orders, and who was paid. He gave it to me before he died of hunger." The air in the studio cracked with tension. Maada Bio slowly leaned forward, whispering, "You never told us this existed." Traoré nodded. "Because I knew the day would come when they'd try to bury the truth, and me with it." Trump's fists clenched. A producer in the background whispered, "We need to cut the feed." But the control room refused, because something bigger was happening. Something real. Tears began falling down Maada Bio's face, not just for Traoré, but for Africa. Traoré turned a page. This is their fear. And with one deep breath, he began to read. Captain Ibrahim Traoré turned the pages slowly, the room holding its breath. "Page 17, he said, his voice low. The farmer listed the names of the foreign agents who gave the green light for the attack. They came with gifts, promises, guns, rice. And then they vanished. Trump interrupted, scoffing. "That's hearsay. You can't hold a country hostage over an old man's diary." Traoré looked up. "That man buried his daughter with his bare hands. She was 9. Do you want to call that hearsay again, sir?" The studio fell silent. A still image of a mud hut in northern Burkina Faso appeared on the LED screen behind them. The producer had quietly pulled it from Traoré's folder. A small girl in a torn dress smiled in the photo. She was real. Maada Bio wiped his face. How many more notebooks like this exist? Traoré's answer was chilling. Too many, but no one's ever had the courage to read them out loud. Until now. Outside the studio, crowds began gathering. In Ouagadougou, in Freetown, in Lagos. Something was shifting. Inside the studio, Trump reached for his earpiece. And then, a voice cracked through the feed. A crisp voice echoed from Trump's earpiece. But it was loud enough for the microphones to catch. Mr. President, Washington is watching. Tread carefully. Trump looked up sharply. He hadn't meant for that to be heard. But it was too late. The camera zoomed in on Traoré's eyes, unblinking, fierce, yet calm like a soldier who had seen too much. So, this isn't just your voice, is it? Traoré asked softly. You speak for others hiding behind the curtain. Trump stiffened. The host tried to cut the tension. Captain Traoré, what exactly do you want from the international community? He answered without pause. Just one thing. Let us live. Let us grow. Let Burkina Faso breathe without your boots on our necks. The control room whispered, the live stream is peaking. Millions are watching. Maada Bio finally stood, voice trembling. And if we at ECOWAS refuse to comply with your demand, Mr. Trump? Trump leaned back, arms crossed, and muttered, then your economies burn with him. Gasps filled the room. But Traoré? He simply reached into his pocket and pulled out a small folded letter with a UNICEF logo on it. Traoré unfolded the crumpled letter with gentle hands. It was written in shaky French, with small red hearts drawn at the corners. As he held it up, the studio's zoom lens showed the name scrawled at the bottom, Fatoumata, age 12. She wrote this from a refugee camp in Djibo, he said, voice softening. Her father was killed. Her school was bombed. But she still ended the letter with, don't stop fighting for us. He cleared his throat. How can I step down when children believe I'm the only one who sees them? Tears began forming in the moderator's eyes. Even Maada Bio looked away, biting his lip. The letter was displayed on the studio screen. Viewers at home saw each childlike word, each line trembling with innocent pain. Trump stared at it, unmoving. This is manipulation, he said coldly. You're playing emotions? Traoré cut him off firmly. You've dropped bombs with no tears. I'll carry their stories, with all of mine. The studio fell into stunned silence. Viewers were crying, thousands. And outside the studio, chants had begun. We are Fatoumata. We are Burkina. The camera zoomed in on Captain Traoré's hand as he gently folded the letter from Fatoumata and slid it back into his pocket. He then turned to Trump. Do you know what they say about Africa in your war rooms? He asked calmly. Trump didn't answer. They call us unstable, needy, disposable. They say we are too poor to rule ourselves, too weak to defend our dignity. The studio was silent. But we are not weak, Traoré continued. We are wounded by centuries of theft, betrayal, and silence. And when someone finally stands up, they call him a problem. The crowd watching from outside had grown into the thousands. Many waved Burkinabe flags. Others held pictures of missing family members. Inside, Maada Bio stood and spoke gently for the first time. Captain, if you stay in power, are you willing to die for your people? Traoré didn't flinch. I already died the day I saw a boy eat sand to survive. Somewhere in the control room, a technician sobbed silently. Even Trump looked unsettled but tried to laugh it off. That's just drama, he muttered. Traoré smiled faintly. No, Mr. Trump, that's Africa. Traoré took a slow breath. Let me tell you one more story, he said. One you'll never find in your intelligence reports. He turned to face the camera. Last year, I visited Tiabele, a village with more graves than homes. A mother grabbed my hand and pulled me aside. She had one child left after losing 3. The studio dimmed slightly, lights focused only on Traoré. She said to me, "Captain, I have nothing left, not even tears, but please don't leave us. If you go, I won't last the week." Maada Bio's eyes brimmed with emotion. Trump shifted in his chair, visibly uncomfortable. "These people don't want dollars," Traoré continued. "They want justice. They want peace. They want us to stop letting foreign interests feed off our pain like vultures." He pulled a photograph from his jacket. A small woman barefoot holding her last child in her arms. "She gave me this. Not as a gift, as a burden." The screen behind him showed the image. It struck every viewer in the heart. The studio went silent. Viewers around the world cried. And then Maada Bio whispered, "Why weren't we told any of this?" Traoré looked him in the eye. "Because no one wants Africa to speak for itself." Backstage, ECOWAS aides were scrambling. Messages flooded Maada Bio's phone from Abuja, Accra, Niamey, some begging him to walk off the set, others pleading for calm. He gripped the desk tightly. Trump turned toward him with an icy smile. "Maada, if you don't make a decision right now, your country's trade routes will be frozen by morning." The threat was real. Maada Bio knew it. His people were already struggling. But he looked at the photo of the mother on the screen and hesitated. "You don't care about Africa," he finally said, looking straight at Trump. "You care about control." The audience behind the glass burst into applause. Trump was furious now. "Then you're choosing a rebel over stability." Traoré slowly turned to Maada Bio. "I'm not asking you to choose me," he said. "Choose the people." Maada Bio stood again. "Captain Traoré will not be removed. Not today." Trump slammed his fist on the table. "You'll regret this." But the cameras were still rolling, and the world was watching. Viewers at home were now standing, clapping in front of their screens. Some wept openly, and outside, the crowd began singing. Traoré remained still as the applause outside echoed through the glass. Then he slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out another paper, folded, worn, and smeared with pencil marks. "I want to read something else," he said. "It's from a boy named Musa. He lives in a displaced camp near Kaya. His parents were killed in the conflict. He sent this to me with a piece of bread." The moderator whispered, "A piece of bread?" Traoré nodded. "Because that's all he had left." He unfolded the note. His voice cracked as he read, "Dear Captain, I want to be a soldier like you, not to fight, just to protect. Please don't leave us. If you leave, I'll protect Burkina with my stick. I have one. I call it hope. Please don't let them take you away." The room was still. Even the journalists had tears in their eyes. Maada Bio turned away, struggling to breathe. Trump muttered something under his breath, but nobody cared anymore. Outside, the crowd began chanting softly, "Hope, hope, hope." And Traoré stood quietly, as if guarding every child with nothing left but faith. Suddenly, without warning, the studio went dark. Gasps filled the room. Cameras powered down. Lights flickered and died. Panic started to rise among the crew. A few people screamed. Outside, sirens echoed in the distance. Maada Bio turned sharply. "What is this?" Trump stood up angrily. "This is sabotage." But Traoré remained completely calm. He walked to the large glass window facing the street and looked out. Thousands of people were holding up their phones, flashlights shining toward the studio. In the dark, it looked like stars rising from the ground. "They cut the power," Traoré said quietly. "But they can't cut the people's light." Backstage, a technician managed to reboot one camera using a battery rig. One angle flickered back to life, focused on Traoré's face, glowing faintly in the light from the window. The moderator whispered, "Do we continue?" Traoré nodded. This moment belongs to Africa now. Then from the darkness, a voice emerged. "There's a car approaching." Trump looked alarmed. He began dialing a number, but Traoré stepped forward again and raised his voice. "Even in the dark, we do not fear." And just then, the doors opened again. An elderly woman stepped into the studio. No guards, no announcement, just quiet footsteps and swollen feet. She wore a simple blue wrapper and carried a folded Burkina Faso flag. Traoré's eyes widened. He recognized her instantly. "Mama Fadila," he whispered. The moderator looked confused. "Who is she?" Traoré swallowed hard. "She's the mother of Lieutenant Bamba. He died saving school children during a foreign-backed raid in the north. They shot him in the back. He bled out protecting kids with his bare hands." The old woman spoke slowly, every word like a stone. "I did not cry the day they killed my son, but I will cry if they take you from us, Captain." She walked to the desk and placed the folded flag in front of Trump. "Keep this," she said. "It was stained with my boy's blood. Maybe it will remind you that we are not pawns." Even Trump was speechless now. The panel was frozen in time. Maada Bio, tears now streaming, whispered, "What kind of man stands in silence while the world pleads for justice?" And Traoré, he knelt before the old woman, not as a president, but as a son. Traoré helped Mama Fadila to a chair. Then he turned again to the panel. "There's one more story you must hear." He pulled a photograph from his jacket and held it up to the cameras. A small boy, no older than 6. He sat on a dusty floor, his legs gone. Just bandaged stumps remained. His eyes, huge, quiet, watching. This is Yakuba. He was playing near a bush when a leftover mine exploded beneath him. The mine wasn't from us. It was from a foreign mission 2 years ago. The soldiers left, but the weapons stayed. Trump shifted again, looking down. Maada Bio whispered, "Is he alive?" "Yes," Traoré said softly. "And every day he tells his mother that he wants to grow strong enough to stand again, not to walk, but to run. He says he wants to chase peace." Silence gripped the room. "They call me a dictator," Traoré continued. "But who speaks for this child? If leadership means kneeling before those who caused this, then I am guilty of standing." Trump clenched his fists, but he had no words left, only the image of a broken boy, smiling, hope shining where legs should be. Suddenly the moderator's earpiece buzzed. Her eyes widened. "We're getting a call, live from Washington." Gasps echoed across the studio. Trump looked shocked. A voice crackled through the speakers. "This is General Clarence Donovan, former U.S. Africa Command. I need to speak." The room froze. Traoré stood completely still. "Go ahead, General," the moderator said. There was a pause. Then the general sighed heavily. "What Captain Traoré is saying is true. We trained local armies to fight terror. But sometimes the missions were manipulated, intelligence twisted, civilians caught in the middle, and yes, some foreign actors profited from the chaos." Trump snapped, "Turn him off." But it was too late. The truth had entered. "I resigned," the general continued, "when I found out a school bombing was covered up. That village in Dori, it wasn't an accident. We looked the other way." The room erupted. Journalists cried. Maada Bio buried his face in his hands. The general's voice cracked. "Traoré isn't the villain, he's the mirror, and we hate what we see in it." Outside, the crowd began to chant again. "Traoré, Traoré, Traoré." And for once, Trump had nothing to say. Maada Bio stood slowly, but this time, he didn't look like a president. He looked like a father,
a son, a man. I came here today thinking I had to keep the peace by keeping quiet, he began, voice shaking. But silence is not peace. Silence is betrayal. He turned to Trump. I believed you, Mr. Trump. I believed the lies we were fed about Traoré. But I've seen the truth with my own eyes today. Trump scoffed, but said nothing. Maada turned to Traoré. Captain, forgive me. I sat on my hands while you fought alone. I was afraid, but now I am ready to stand with you. Traoré stepped forward and shook his hand. The moment felt holy. Two African leaders, not puppets, not pawns, but brothers. And then Maada Bio broke. Tears streamed down his face, freely, without shame. For Yakuba, for Mama Fadila, for the voices we ignored, I am sorry. Outside, the crowd grew louder. Some people dropped to their knees, crying. Inside, the studio cameras caught every second. Because this moment wasn't for headlines. It was for healing.
Just when the room seemed to have reached its emotional peak, Captain Traoré surprised everyone again. He pulled out a plain brown envelope. There was no logo, no stamp, just dust. This, he said quietly, was sent to me anonymously 3 days ago. I didn't know if I would live long enough to read it out loud. The studio tensed. He opened the envelope. Inside was a photograph and a single sheet of paper. Handwritten. He held up the photo. It showed African children chained together in a mine, digging with bare hands. Then he began to read the letter. Dear Ibrahim, you don't know me. I used to work for a European mining firm. I saw children die under collapsed shafts. They were called cheap labor. When you started pushing them out, they offered millions to silence you. You refused. They got angry. This attack is not about democracy. It's about gold. The paper trembled in his hand. I couldn't carry this guilt anymore. Gasps filled the studio. Maada Bio stood again. So all of this was for money? Traoré looked into the camera. This is what power really fears. Truth with no price tag. Within minutes, the story broke worldwide. Phones buzzed. Screens flashed red. Stand with Traoré was trending in 62 countries. From Accra to Addis Ababa, from Lagos to London, people were crying in their homes, classrooms, and workplaces. Burkina Faso students lit candles in front of the presidential palace. Mothers in refugee camps held radios to their hearts. In the studio, calls flooded in, from journalists, diplomats, even celebrities. A famous Ghanaian singer called live and sang a lullaby in tribute to Yakuba, the boy with no legs. Maada Bio took the mic one last time. I hereby declare that ECOWAS will not support any sanctions against Burkina Faso. We will protect our own. We will rewrite this story. Cheers exploded inside and outside the studio. Then something unexpected happened. Trump stood, and for the first time that day, his voice was quiet. I didn't understand, he said. I thought leadership was control, but maybe it's sacrifice. He extended a hand. To everyone's shock, Traoré shook it. No words, just respect. It wasn't about winning. It was about healing, and the world watched in awe. As the studio lights dimmed, Traoré turned to the camera one last time. His eyes were full, not of anger, but of hope. Tonight wasn't for me. It was for the ones who never got to speak. The screen faded to video clips sent in live from across Africa. A boy in Mali holding a wooden stick marked hope. A girl in a Burkina Faso school reciting, "We are not poor, we are rich in spirit." A mother breastfeeding beside a photo of her missing son. Tears flowed in homes across the world. Even the cameramen filming the broadcast had to wipe their eyes to keep going. Traoré placed one hand on his heart. To every African child watching, know this. You were never the problem. You are the answer. As the music swelled,
The screen displayed one final image, a candle lighting thousands of others. Then the screen faded to black. Dear viewers, if your heart was touched by this story, if you cried, if you saw the truth, please like this video. Tell us in the comments, what part made you cry the most? Subscribe if you believe in justice, in truth, and in the power of one voice to change the world. And share this video with someone who needs to believe in Africa again. Because this was never just a story. This is real. This is now. This is us.